Hi guys, so today's video is just going to be a little bit of a discussion involving some things to do with reader and author interactions. At the time that I am filming this, and because I know a lot of you also like to be up to date with events involving fantasy communities online here on BookTube, this is nothing to do with some things that have come up involving Steven Erikson or Malazan. It has nothing to do with that, which I think will become quite clear as I continue on, but I really want to emphasize that just because I know there's been a lot of conversations surrounding that, and if you're hoping to get my take on that, that's not what this is. So if that's what you're here for, feel free to, you can keep watching if you want, but also if that's all you were here for, that's not what I'm going to be talking about. This video has absolutely everything to do with something involving myself and an author, something I'm very excited about, but I also wanted to clarify some things for those of you that have stuck with me for a while, just because I like to be as transparent as possible, as honest as possible, and I really value the concept of integrity around reviews and recommendations, and so I wanted to let you all know about this just so that you have the information. Apologies for being so vague and all over the place. So just to put things as at the forefront as possible, I have an author interview coming up that I am actually very, very excited about. It has already taken place, the recording of that. I did this with a few other people, so it was just a fun collaboration, sit down, chit chat. It was great. I had such an amazing time. I'm so excited for all of you to get to see this video and get to hear from this author, as they are a well of wisdom. They are so smart, so intelligent, and I can't wait for all of you to see that video. But in the past, I think it was in a Q&A video, somebody had asked if I could interview any author, who would it be, or would I ever want to do those on my channel? It was something like that. And I had said at the time that I didn't really want to do author interviews, which, by the way, I think there's this concept that if a reviewer interviews an author that they have made it, and I'm not trying to put down anybody who has had that opportunity because it is a really fun opportunity, but also often it's a matter of just reaching out and asking the author if they would like to do an interview. It's usually just a matter of like, hey, do you want to come on my channel? And if they have the time, usually they're pretty willing, especially if they have a book coming out, because it's publicity. It's literally free marketing for the book. So just wanted to clear that up really quick as a side tangent. Regardless, I have said that I would be a little bit uncomfortable doing that because I so much want to be as honest as possible when I'm discussing books with everybody, and to the point where I have actually made a video of books that I personally think I am biased towards. And I know that sometimes people like to be like, excuse me, every review is biased. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's like when someone says, did you get a haircut? And they're like, I got all of them cut. Like, yeah, we know every review is technically biased because everybody comes into a book with different experiences. They're in a different mood from reading one book to the other book. There's all sorts of things that contribute to why a person might feel a certain way about a certain book at a certain time. However, I do think there are instances when it goes beyond just having your own personal experiences contributing to your feelings toward a book. I think there are some instances where there is a very clear potential for you to have either a positive or a negative bias toward a book. In that video that I did detailing some books that I might have a little bit of bias toward, I mentioned, for an example, Crown of Feathers and Heart of Flames. When I read Crown of Feathers, that was one that I picked up and I was like, hey, I liked this book. And then I saw the author around the time that I had read it and completed it was looking for members for a street team. And if you've never heard of that, it's basically where the author asks, hey, were there any fans of the book that would like to volunteer to kind of help market the book, have posts on Instagram, reshare certain things that come up? And I was like, hey, that sounds like fun, sure. So I signed up for that. And in doing that, I got to see a little bit more of the author than I would say the typical fan might see, or just a little bit more than their social media presence. And I mentioned that, hey, you know what? I liked that author. I like the occasional DM or their posts for this street team. I feel like I know them a little bit better, which makes me probably, even though I try to be honest, and I'm always going to be honest about my feelings, I think it's only, I feel like you have to admit that if you have this interaction, there's a chance that it might affect how you feel. So I mentioned that because the sequel I also enjoyed, but I also got to see a little bit of the author behind the scenes, and that will be true for when the third book comes out. Sidebar, sometimes people ask, what is that book up there that's turned around? It's the third Queen of the Tearling book, but I have it turned around because when the third book comes out for this one, it's just a placeholder, so there's not a gap. That's sidebar over. When I read the third book in that series, I am going to once again state that I have had a few more interactions with that author than maybe the average fan, and therefore it might affect my feelings. I will try not to let it, but I just think it's only honest, to say that. And I did this when I mentioned the Cyborg Tinkerer. I said, I like Meg as a person. Just feel like it's only fair to let you guys know that I've talked to Meg and I like her. And also something like the Witcher series, which is one of my favorite series. I absolutely have an extra bias toward that series because I love the Wild Hunt video game by CD Projekt Red. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But as a result of loving that game so much, I already had this connection and this love for the characters. And when I went into the books, it was just like getting extra information about them. It was just more of these characters that I loved. So I definitely felt that was another reason that I was extra biased toward that series. And that is now going to be true for when the third book in the Aurelian cycle comes out. And if you're like, what's that? I've literally never heard you talk about it. You definitely have. The first book would be Fireborn, and the second book would be Flamefall. If you're new to my channel, then maybe that's like the only way that you haven't heard me talk about these books. They are absolutely in my top 5. I love these books so much, and I had the opportunity to do a video with Rosaria Munda. Rosaria Munda has a political theory degree from Princeton, and I was like, well, who wouldn't want to pick that person's brain? But also, I just wanted to know the inspirations behind a lot of what went into Fireborn and Flamefall. I had some other people that joined me for the video, like I said at the beginning, and they have their own things that made them notice certain elements to the story, and so it was so fun to get to talk to her. I can't wait for all of you to see that video. I also think it's incredibly insightful when it comes to behind the scenes involving publishing, but like I have said in the past, and what I had referenced in that one Q&A video, I rarely want to have that interaction. My reasons for this is just that I want to always make sure I reduce the potential for that extra bias. I will always give the disclaimer if I feel like it's there so that you all have that information and can do with it what you will. And I do take very seriously what I say and what I do on my channel, what recommendations I make to all of you. In making recommendations or doing book reviews, my goal is not to try and impose my love of certain books on you or my dislike of certain books. It's why when I do recommendations videos, I recommend books even if I don't like them, because I think that there's so much to books that could be wonderful to one person that aren't going to appeal to someone else, and life is short and life is difficult, and I just want you guys to find books that you like. And I do think that it's inevitable that if you read a book, like I've said many times already, so you guys get the point of what I'm trying to say, by interacting with Rosaria Munda, I now, when I read the third book, have that additional bias. And the author interview thing is something that I have not wanted to do in the past, and a few things changed for me as to why I decided to accept this opportunity. It doesn't mean I'm going to want to interview every single author, because what I stated as the reason I didn't want to do them in the past is that it would make me so uncomfortable to interview an author and then read something of theirs in the future and really not like it. I think that would be so awkward, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I think that's pretty true for a lot of people. A lot of bookworms are super nice, right? They don't want to be like, hey, like, you were cool, but also your book sucked. Nobody wants to do that. So why I decided to change that up for this particular instance, and why I might also in the future do other author interviews. One, I think I already have a love for these books. These first 2 books are incredible. I literally told my husband, this author could do anything with the ending and I'm probably gonna like it, because if it's like a perfectly cute, happy ending, even though it probably wouldn't be super fitting given everything that's happened, I'd be like, the characters deserve it. And then it could be, I think I expressed this to the author too when we were doing our video, but it could be super tragic and everybody could die and the world burn to the ground. And I'd be like, that seems about right. Like, she could do basically anything and I'm probably gonna like it. I have just loved these books so much. I adore these books. I adore these books. And I think it's pretty true of a lot of fans having the opportunity to get to talk to authors in the past usually came down to going to events and going to signings, those sorts of things. And I would have wanted to go to a signing. I would have wanted to see her speak, but I don't have that opportunity currently due to the state of the world at the time this video is being recorded. We still, for the most part, aren't doing these big events that involve lots of people. And that was one of the reasons that really pushed me to want to do this, is because I don't have that opportunity. I mean, maybe you guys think if I'm on YouTube talking about books that I shouldn't go to events involving authors and have my opinions be swayed if I like them. Like, for example, I went to a signing with V.E. Schwab and I was like, V.E. Schwab seems cool. But maybe you feel like even that is something that I need to have as a disclaimer if I'm reviewing books. But either way, I don't have that opportunity. Most of us don't have that opportunity right now because a lot of marketing is involving virtual events right now for people's safety. And I feel like when I was approached and asked, like, hey, would you like to do this, essentially this like virtual event, I was like, well, I not only want to be able to let you all know about books, but I like to try to show my support where I can. And I think those of you that have followed me for a while and you follow me on Instagram, I think you guys know that I'm constantly sharing fan art, trying to show support for artists. I reshare pictures on Bookstagram that I think are pretty. I sometimes will share links to organizations and charities. I think the record is there, the receipts, if you will, are there, that I like to try to show my support where I can. And I do love these books, and I was like, well, I want to show my support, and I feel like having the author have an opportunity to do that around the release of their second book, I mean, that's what this is. So that was one thing. The traditional means of doing events around the release of a book are different now. They're not the same, and I think as a result, you are probably going to see more authors, or at least their publishing teams, kind of encourage the virtual events. Why not? It's free marketing. So that was part of it. I wanted to show my support. Second, I wanted to chat with this author. I think there are a lot of authors that some of us are like, you know, it'd be really cool if I could like go get coffee with this person. And in my case, it would be, I don't know, not coffee, because I don't drink coffee, but still the sentiment is the same. Everybody has those authors that they really want to hang out with. I love almost every single thing that Sanderson has written. If he could forgive the fact that I kind of really didn't like Steelheart, if he knew, and he was down, like, yeah, I would be super down to do that. But in the past, I've been like, oh, I probably shouldn't. I shouldn't reach out to anybody. I should keep it totally separate. And I think Sanderson doesn't need my help, right? I mean, the man made like how much money doing his Kickstarter campaign? So I feel like I've always thought of it as like, oh, well, it would just be for me, and I don't want it to just be for me. But there are times where it's not just for me. It's for all of you getting to hear from these authors and get to find out more about publishing, or get to find out more about creative control and things like that. And not every single author is Brandon Sanderson. Not every single author makes a bunch of money to make leather-bound editions of their books. Some authors were looking at the beginning of their careers, and the fact that me just sitting down to talk to them could help their books get more recognition, I am in support of that. Something else that makes this a little bit different than how I traditionally thought of it in my mind. In the past, I thought me just with one author, I don't know. I have a little bit of social anxiety, which I think people kind of laugh at, given that I have a YouTube channel where I talk to people about books and stuff. But I still a little bit, I mean, I didn't start doing live shows on my channel until basically this year. I did one toward the end of last year, but I had been doing videos for years, and I was terrified to do a live show because I'm like, if I say something stupid, I can't edit it out. I still say stupid things all the time and don't edit them out because I'm dumb, and that happens. But I kept thinking, okay, if it's just me and an author, I don't know, like, I'm gonna be weird, or I'm gonna be awkward, or I'm gonna be stupid. And I was like, well, maybe in this instance, I was like, what if I had like a group effort? If the author is comfortable doing a group video, I think that could actually be really fun. And it would be nice for other individuals who want that opportunity. And so it's a group video. And I think that's how I will do them in the future when I do, if I get the opportunity to do it again in the future. that is probably what I'm going to do, is just have a sit down with myself and some other friends/fans of the author. What I don't want to come out of this video, and I really want this to not be misconstrued, I don't want people, like I articulated a little bit before, to think that somehow my having this opportunity gives me any more authority on these books or fantasy or just having opinions about publishing or booktube or anything like that. I have seen that happen where people now think, well, like, this person's qualified to have these opinions. And I'm like, we're all just people talking about books. I hate when I see people give more authority to a person because of the fact that they have some association with the author or something to do with their subscriber count. I can't stand that. So I don't think any of you would do that, but I just want to say, you know, if ever anybody's like, wow, you're like really rising up in the ranks. BookTube is not a competition. It's a bunch of bookworms being nerds. I also don't want my views on this for myself, my opinions as to what I am comfortable with, to be a rubric for what other people are supposed to be comfortable with. This is a topic that is being discussed a lot currently and has been discussed in the past, will be discussed more moving forward, and my views on it are my views. They're what I'm comfortable with. The interaction that I had, I really wanted to be a certain way, otherwise I wouldn't have done it. And there are some people that wouldn't ever want to. There are some individuals that will never want to interview an author. There are some individuals that's what they want to set out to do. They want to have author interactions. There's two very extreme sides to it, which are fine. There are people that are in the middle. That's fine too. But I just don't want anybody being like, see, that's the way. That's how we should be thinking of this, because it's not a fact. It's an opinion and it's a comfort level. So this is the one that I have. Thank you for listening to me pretty much probably re-articulate the exact same point several different times. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're really excited to see that video. I think it is a fantastic one, and I'll see you guys all later. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.